My guest today is Frank Ring. Frank's the owner of Walking for Health and Fitness, a program that helps those who want to walk understand the physical, psychological, and spiritual benefits of walking, both for pleasure and for working out and getting in shape. About 7 years ago, he started to experience back pain. His orthopedic doctor told him he had a herniated disc, to stop all activity, rest, and see a pain management doctor. During his recovery, he began to walk, and he really enjoyed it. He says once he began to walk full-time, two things happened. First, he began to lose weight. But more importantly, or as important in my opinion, his thinking became clearer. He's currently healthy, happy, and enjoys sharing the benefits of walking with others through his website, books, and online programs on walking for pleasure and fitness. Welcome to my show, Frank.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's really nice to be here. Appreciate that introduction, too. It's very nice.
So tell me your story. A lot of people give up on the back pain, especially, I know a lot of people would just go to the doctor, take more medication. You know, doc, I hurt. Tell me your story and how it transformed your health into what you're doing now.
Well, sure. I'd always been an athlete since high school, and graduated 81. And, through the years, after high school, I was a baseball player, basketball player. I played sports even after finishing high school. And then I kept in shape by running. I ran cross country 1 year in high school, kind of like that. Never was really a big fan of running, though, but I did it to stay in shape. And the running, just that pounding on my body, really, it contributed. It wasn't the only thing that contributed to the herniated disc. I was lifting weights also. And then bad posture, sitting a lot at my desk. School teacher, I'd spend a lot of time at the desk doing videos and lessons for my students. So the sitting really, between the sitting, the running, the weightlifting, and then in 2015, I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but the Mets were in the World Series. So I blame the Mets for my back injury.
Oh, okay. I don't get that joke.
Okay, so here we go. So I'm cross country. I was a cross country coach at that time. So we'd finish practice. I'd run a little bit with the kids. I'd get home, get my work done for school the next day, and then I'd watch the Mets. And all of those games are late. All those World Series playoff games, World Series games. And I'd sit on my couch I had a couch that wasn't very comfortable and bad posture. I'd fall asleep on my side. And that kind of was the start of the back pain. I felt it. I felt this tingle down my leg, but I kept running because I needed to stay in shape. And the pain just never went away. It started and it just got worse. So I did all the right things. I went to a physical therapist. They gave me every test under the sun except for an MRI. So eventually I did like 3 months of physical therapy, 3 days a week. And I would tell them, when I leave here, I feel okay, then I'm hurting. I'll keep coming back. I didn't go to a very good therapist. Eventually, I'm just like, I spent a weekend on the floor because I couldn't find any other position, like laying on my stomach on the floor. Went to an orthopedic, and in 2 minutes, he asked me a few questions. He moved my shoulders in a way that just triggered the pain and said, "You have a disc problem. Go get an MRI." And I fought him. I said, I don't have a disc problem. I've been in physical therapy all these years, for months. They never mentioned disc. He says, "I'm doing this for 40 years. He said, "Go get the MRI. You'll see that you have a disc problem." So now we get the MRI, and I get back to him, and he's like, looks at the X-ray he had. He's like, "Ooh," he's moaning and groaning. I go, "Your patient doesn't want to hear that." He says, "This is really bad. I hope I don't have to operate on you." So
Well, part of the skeptic in me and the engineer, two things. One, I wonder if you look at the picture right, if everybody's disc might be a little herniated, not perfect, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
And he's a doctor, he wants to operate, and you're in pain, you need a solution. That's why you're there to see him. I'm glad you're well again.
Thank you. And I didn't have an operation, but he sent me to pain management, which I figured, thank God, pain management, finally get some relief here, because I was having a hard time sleeping. Now, I was in so much pain, I couldn't even, like sitting, I'm sitting now. Sitting was just a nightmare. And I was teaching all day. I couldn't sit because it just hurt.
So you didn't go, you,
Stand.
you didn't
I
actually
did-
get the surgery then.
no, I didn't get the surgery. His doing and ahhing was, I don't want to have to operate on you. So he
Oh,
stopped
okay.
everything.
Okay.
So, um, I had to just stand all that. It's either lay down. I could only find one position that was comfortable, or stand. And by the end of the day, teaching everything, my body just ate. So I said, look, if you're telling me I have to just rest, you got to put me out of work. I cannot keep this up. So I was out of work for 4 months, went to pain management, which was, they just give you an epidural, they stick a needle in your back. And first epidural did nothing. The second epidural dulled the pain. And the third epidural just knocked it out entirely.
Then are you addicted to going back for an epidural every couple of
Well,
weeks or something?
here's what it was like, 3 week intervals. And at that time, they said to me, this is what, now 7 years ago, they said, hey, this should last, 2 years. He gave me, I remember hearing that number. And I'm like, I'm not doing this every 2 years. This is crazy. So at the same time, all of this is happening, my mom had pancreatic cancer. She was slowly dying and had passed away that summer. So I had the stress of the back pain. I had the stress of losing my mom. So the mind-body connection was a huge part of it also, I believe, which I didn't recognize at that point until I started doing research for my book, and put that together of, wow, like how much
That
what we
reminds me
think
of
affects our body.
like Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, those kind of books.
Yeah. I've never read her. I know some of her work, but that's was a big connection that I made, that the mind body connection. So I
What is
went
real
back.
quick?
Yeah,
What is real quick the underlying root emotional thing that's associated with back pain? The mental thing that's
yeah. That part, I don't know what that association is, but there's a Dr. Sarlo, John Sarlo, I believe his name is, and he wrote a whole book on that mind body connection with back pain. I know years ago the teacher Howard Stern had suffered a lot of back pain, and I think he had read this book and made that connection.
I think it's support. Like it makes sense. Like you don't feel supported when you have back problems.
Right. That could be. I don't know the exact reason, but I did not want to go through that again. So got back to teaching in there with September of 2000, coaching, and really like the doctors have, comment was in the back of my mind, stop everything, don't do anything. I was afraid to really do anything strenuous, which is not as good.
Well, I would definitely
early.
I would
I was in my early 50s.
I would definitely quit lifting the weights.
Yeah, that was the first thing. I absolutely stopped that. So cross country season ended, and now I had put some weight on because I was no longer in pain, but I wasn't moving. So I said, you know what? I need to do something. Let me get out and walk. And here's my thinking. I'll get my legs stronger. My back will start to get stronger. And then I'll start running again. That was the plan. And I started walking. And my first goal was to get to, there's a big hill. Yeah, got it.
I quit running because I broke my hip and didn't seem good. And I quit skiing and snowboarding as well. I love to walk though. I really love to walk. But my question for you is, you don't think the running all the time had an effect to hurt you? You must really love to run.
No, absolutely. No, the opposite. I'll tell you that now. So the running definitely was a big effect on the back, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I start walking, and my goal was, there's this hill. It was a mile from my house, pretty steep hill, and I'm like, that's my goal. When I can make that hill just a mile one way, a mile back, I'll be a happy guy. I'll start to get back into running, and let me finish this story. I'll go to another one. But
so this is not walking up the hill, running up the hill.
My goal was to walk up the hill.
Oh, you're still in that much pain.
No, I was in no pain. I needed to get back in shape. Okay. So now I'm going to walk up the hill. Once I get to that, I had to work my way to get to that point. I realized, I'm like, wow, I get out every night to walk because I need to get back into physical shape. But I was looking forward to it. I would drive home from school and I'd think, I can't wait to get out on that walk. And I'd get out and walk, put headphones in, hook it up to the phone, listen to a podcast, listen to music, listen to an audiobook. And I said, wow, I really like this. I never looked forward to running. So you had just said, you said you must love running a lot. I never loved running. I tolerated it because I needed to stay in shape. That's how I looked at it. So once I made the hill and I'm like, yeah, I made my goal, but I am not running because that's the thing that got me hurt. And I'm enjoying this so much. So my walks got longer and longer. I listening to so much just information or just music enjoyment. I was really, I got to say, enjoying my walking time. It was my time, my alone time. My son was at that time middle school, so he kind of kept himself busy, but still obviously need me around. So it gave me that nice break between school and life where I just focused on myself.
And it's enough to keep you in shape. You found you could get in the same shape as you did running.
I found I could get in the same shape because when I look back on all my running logs, I was hurt so often. Knee, just always sore knee. I had a shin soreness I looked at my notes. It lasted for so long. There was a 2-month period I stopped running because of it. And this is a few years before the back injury. So when I looked at my logs, I'm like, I was always hurt.
Oh, so it's like a slow burn instead of crash and burn. And
yeah, it really was a slow burn. Now, I was doing so much running because I was doing a virtual run around the United States. And so I think it started in 2001. I read this article about these guys who ran across country. And I, was a runner. I was coaching cross country, funny enough. And I said, would I do that? If I had the time, would I run cross country? And the answer was no. But I was running every week, and I'm like, all right, I know if I run 20 miles a week, that gets me from my house to where I was working, my teaching job. But what's the next 20 miles? Well, okay, that's the town of Elizabeth. I live in New Jersey, North Jersey. What's the next 20 miles? So I don't know. So what if I start tracking this? So I started tracking my running, and I said, well, my original goal was from Palisades Park, New Jersey, where I grew up and where I teach, down to Key West, Florida, because Route 1 runs from the George Washington Bridge, actually runs from Maine all the way down to Key West, and it runs through Palisades Park. And my grandfather told me when he was younger, he took a road trip to Florida via Route 1. The New Jersey Turnpike wasn't built yet back in whenever he took this trip in the 50s. So that became my goal, to run virtually to Key West, Florida.
By virtually, you mean just by miles, or do you have pictures or something?
Okay, so that's the next step of this. So I'm a school teacher. I teach Photoshop. So I said, all right, I'm going to track the miles on a map, but what if I Photoshop myself along the route, and I'll just goof on my students, telling them that I'm running to Florida. That's how this whole thing started.
No class tomorrow because you're in the Key West.
So I put a map up of New Jersey, and there's a picture of me in front of the school. Good luck, Mr. Ring, Key West or bust. That's what I wrote, but I Photoshopped it in. And then the next picture the next week was me on the Route 1, which goes over this Pulaski Turnpike in Jersey City.
No,
running.
You're not in school. You haven't seen the kids in a week or two, or how?
No. This is virtually. So I'm running at night, and I'm just tracking it, putting it in my logbook, and then I'm on the map. I'm 20 miles down. The next week, another 20 miles. So on the map, I was progressing.
Oh, is this during the pandemic? During the pandemic or something? When I'm still trying to picture how your students in school saw your pictures.
This is 2001, not 21. Okay. So this started way back when. This is 20 years before the pandemic. And the kids would come in and they'd see the map and they'd see my picture of me running. I had a student take pictures of me in all different running positions. So I Photoshopped myself out of those pictures into the pictures that people posted online, even in the early 2000s. People driving down the road taking pictures of roadside signs. So I take one of those pictures and Photoshop myself into it. So basically, I was virtually running to Key West, Florida. So that started. That's why I'd get out every day, well, not every day, often to run. And I'd keep detailed mileage notes because I wanted to then put it on my maps and be accurate. That
It's still inspiring.
country,
If I was your students watching, I would be looking forward to the next poster. And if I was you, I'd be worried if I don't run my 20 miles.
yeah. So it was interesting. So one, it was goofing on them because they would look, they're like, you can't run to Florida. I'm like, is that me in that picture right there? That's me running to Florida. So it became a joke, but it also kept me motivated to get out and do the work. So that was my reason to keep in shape. And
So you're losing weight during this journey on the spoofing. You are losing weight, getting back into shape.
maintaining the weight because I'm luckily enough, I'm just always had a body type or just eating habits or physicalness that, my weight has always just slowly crept up. During the back injury, it came up a little bit quicker because I wasn't doing anything. So when I hurt my back in 16 and when I was out, no, I could no longer add to the maps. I could no longer run. I think at that point in time, I got to Key West and then I continued up the west coast of Florida and then along the southern United States and just, kept detailed maps and pictures of me on these maps. So to get back into that thing, I started the walking. I said, well, I'm not running anymore because I was hurt all the time. Let me start walking. And so from 16 on, that's all I've done to stay in shape. Walking and body weight exercises. No more lifting, nothing crazy like that. And
What about your mental health? You got in shape, but what about the mind, body, or your mental health?
The mental health, I just really took off in such a positive way. So during the back injury, so again, it was a lot of pain. I was in my early 30s and I'm thinking, is this the rest of my life being in this pain? Because this is awful. So I was, and then on top of that, my mom slowly dying. So once I started walking, that lifted. I mean, like I said, I looked forward to every day getting out and walking. Wintertime, I bundled up. I think the coldest I'd walked in North Jersey, I think one night it was like 17 degrees, cold enough. But I looked forward to it. I would never have run in 17-degree weather.
I was waiting for you to name the temperature because right now where I'm at in the mountains in Utah, if it gets 20, I'm like it's too cold to go for a walk. And there's other people out there. So we're on the same page there. It still needs to be enjoyable.
Yeah. It bundled up. So that was for me. And like I said, I enjoyed that. So in these walks, getting back in shape, enjoying it, listening to audiobooks, personal development stuff, I said, I'm a school teacher, a coach. I'm always doing another job. Maybe I could do something with this walking thing. And, you see these people who talk about starting online businesses. And the first thing they say is do something you like to do, right? If you're going to be doing it. So I said, well, what do I know how to do? Other than I could teach Photoshop, but, there's so many great Photoshop books. I'm not going to write a Photoshop book. But I said, I like this walking thing. And the idea of writing a book, I thought I can't write a book. I've never done anything like that or any type of writing.
And you can't make money off your book either. So
yeah. So I started a website, Walking for Health and Fitness, and I would do some blog posts. I'm like, oh, this is great. And the idea was to create a walking program to help other people. And that's what I did. So I said, okay, what would I want in this walking book? I did actually PowerPoint presentations, right? Outlines. And then the idea of this program was for me to then narrate the PowerPoint slides to teach people the benefits of walking. I had 28 chapters, so 28 PowerPoint presentations, right? That was going to be the program. And I recorded the first one and I said, oh my God, I wouldn't sit through this because it's a presentation. Like, I'm like, God, I'm teaching something, but I don't know about, it's walking. You want to be out there doing it, right? So it's fitness. So I said, well, if I write a book, because you're marketing people, oh, you need a book to be legitimate. So I said, well, how am I going to write a book? But I have these 28 PowerPoint presentations really in outline form. There's my book. Let me just add sentences to the outlines. So that became my first book. I never thought I'd write a book. So writing the book to educate people was the main goal. But the sub goal was the fact that, can I actually do this for myself? And that whole process was really so much fun and interesting and nerve wracking and, scary putting my ideas out there. But it's been on Amazon for a number of years now. And Walking for Health and Fitness, it's hit number one on their walking book list.
Oh, nice.
For times. So it's been nice. And I recorded the audiobook version and I give that away free with the book. so that instead of like my point of not continuing that first walking program was that I didn't want people sitting at a desk when they should be walking. So same idea with the book. I'll have people listen to the book while they walk because I had been listening to so many audiobooks.
And then you have your programs, your online courses, right?
Right. So then I then developed a program that I actually would suggest to people. And it's Walking for Health and Fitness, the complete program. And it covers walking, of course, and the benefits of the physical benefits of walking. When I interviewed people in preparing to create this program, I interviewed a number of people, some people I knew, some people I didn't know. They all told me the same thing. It came down to one thing, and that was they knew what to do to get in shape. Okay. Many of them were a little bit overweight, some of them very much overweight. They knew the thing to do. They just didn't do it.
Well, stop eating comes to mind as
That
well.
comes to mind. But what I didn't realize, and like I said, the walking helped me lose weight for that period of time when I was hurt. But I've never really been very much out of shape, overweight. Overweight for me is like 5 pounds, a little bit like, ooh, I'm a little bit over. The holidays just ended. Let me drop some weight. But some people were seriously overweight. And it's in talking to them, yes, to say, well, eat less, but boy, the battle that they all had within themselves about the weight loss was, and knowing, I know I need to exercise, but I would do it for a week or two. I feel good, and then something would trip me up. And then
what kind of exercises were they doing?
Some people were going to the gym. Some people were trying to run. Some people were doing Pilates and yoga and stuff like that.
Painful stuff.
Yeah, and what happened was they would start to feel good, but then that thing would trip them up. So I said, I need to put a component in my program that kind of addresses that thing. That
addresses what?
The mindset thing, to say, okay, if from someone who walks, hey, get out and walk, and you're going to have all these great benefits, the cardiovascular benefits, the weight loss benefits. If you combine that with sensible eating, it enhances your mental health. I could preach that till I'm blue in the head, but someone needs to then take action on that. And I needed to come up with something that taught that stuff, but also to taking the action of, okay, I spent the day on the couch because whatever, I was tired from work, but what stops it from going to be 2 days and 3 days and 4 days of sitting on the couch?
So Steve, what do you suppose it's so easy to walk? Me, I like being outside. I even run into my neighbors and say hello. It's like Albert Einstein and a lot of people who are smart, they go for walks to kind of like you get an idea in the shower, all that. Why do you think more people don't walk?
I wish I knew that, because we'll talk about the same things. I get the same benefits you did. The ideas that come to me during a walk, and I've written about this, where I can have a problem, go out on a walk, and a walk for me, like 5 miles was like a good walk for me, right? And no,
That's a long ways.
People don't need a 5 mile walk,
no.
but I enjoyed a 5 mile walk. I really that was the sweet spot for me.
Well,
I'd walk.
I literally just walk out the door and I walk as far as until I feel like it's time to turn around. Or it's too cold. I stop and talk to my neighbor. But what I found was if I make it mandatory, like very first thing and then very last thing before I check out for the night, somehow that keeps my metabolism going, and I think helps with the
even like that, the mindset part of it. I always found a solution to my problem, or an idea came to me, and it was usually like right at the end of the walk. My house, I could see my house, and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Where did that idea just come from? I'm walking for an hour. Why did this come to me right now? So with any kind of problem hanging over their head right now, just go out the door and walk, because of what happens to the brain when we exercise and when we walk, especially something like, because walking is so gentle on the body. There's nothing helping it, helping like running.
Maybe it's because when you're running and lifting weights or something so intense, your synapses are being overwhelmed by the pain, or that you can't just relax. And that's why the mindset, the mindfulness, this concept of like the meditation you're walking, That's why walking allows for that, maybe, because I'm just thinking out loud, Steve.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you're running, you are, even if it's better for your body, you're burning more calories. The pain is, you're listening to the pain, not the mindfulness.
You're listening to you're listening to the huffing and puffing, because you are breathing heavier. I mean, when you run, but that also detracts from what you're trying to do with your mind. I never had any ideas when I ran. It was usually just, when's this going to be over? No, but the walking is so gentle. And as far as the weight aspect, or losing weight by either running or walking, right? You can walk so much further, or not, for a longer period of time than running, I found. So if I ran, let's say 5 miles when I was a runner, maybe it took me 9-minute miles. That's not even fast paced running, right? That's 45 minutes. But 5 miles of walking is well over an hour, right? More than that, probably like an hour and a half. A nice gentle walk.
You're getting to where the calories are kind of the same, long, slow burn or fast rocket. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's that slow burn. It's much more enjoyable. So if you enjoy it more, you'll get out and do it more. That's what I found. I found, like I said, looking forward to that walk every day. I never looked forward to running every day. I never looked forward to the weightlifting training of doing that. But I did look forward, and I still look forward every morning. Before school, I'm out on my track and I'm doing my walking. I'm doing my bodyweight push-ups and squats every half a lap, and I get a great workout in before I start class at 8 o'clock.
So for people who don't have this regime of walking every morning or evening, and maybe it's because they have some preconceived idea, what are possibly the preconceived, what could they be thinking? What could be stopping them? Because this is what you do, Steve. This is all you do. So you know these people. What are people? It's not an excuse. It's like their mindset, like all you have to do is put on your shoes and walk out the door. What stops people from starting to walk?
Walking, many people don't think that they could lose weight just by walking, or feel in shape just by, it's too easy. I mean, right as I get out of my car, I walk into a building. I'm walking, I'm not losing. That's crazy. I can't lose weight just doing that, but you can. You absolutely can not only lose weight and just get stronger physically, because you're doing it for a longer period of time. So I think they think it's not, because they're not sweating and huffing and puffing. Well, this can't be.
I will admit that even this week, as long as I've been walking and mountain climbing, and I was comparing a 10-mile hike I went on to running, like you said, running. And then, like you said, I noticed, well, yeah, running is burning twice as much calories, but it's only for 7 or 10 or 12 minutes. I can't even run a 10-minute mile, by the way. So,
yes.
And I'm hiking for all day. I mean, that's an extreme case, but the calories definitely are more balanced than you would think.
Yeah, and because you're doing it so much longer, that calorie burn lasts even through you take a nice walk after dinner, that calorie burn goes on through the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote an article for my blog post. It's the benefits of a 15-minute walk are just, they're enormous. And what I find is, if you can get out for 15 minutes, you'll find a way to get out for 15 minutes at lunchtime and another 15 after work or after dinner. It's
the after
you need. You don't need to string that. Like I talked about, going out for a 5-mile walk. You don't need that. Okay. But 15 here, 15 there, 15 in the morning, but park your car further away from work and walk in, whatever the case may be. But that, if you did 15 minutes 3 times a day, it doesn't feel like a big stress or strain, but it'll make a huge difference in how you feel.
Do it in the evening, like you said, after dinner.
Yeah.
It's not just to walk off a big meal. I find that keeps my metabolism, like my fat burning, going all night long.
Yeah, exactly. So there are just so many enormous benefits. So getting back to the people I had interviewed, they needed a way, I felt, too. All right, here's something that you could do. And one, you got to find that big purpose. And whether it's fitness or anything I think we do in life, we need some kind of overriding purpose of why we're doing it. Otherwise, it'll be very easy to get distracted. So the program works on that, the mindset, like what's your why for doing this? What's your why for working out, for doing this walking program? Okay. And then start to build just small little habits that get you out the door.
Well,
So
do you find people, what I thought you were going to say is once you do it, you'll like it so much, you'll want
yeah,
more of it. But are you finding people still think it's a chore to where they need a purpose?
I I don't know. I've not followed up on the people I'd interviewed for the program, but I I don't know if they see it as a chore.
It's maybe
They didn't
maybe
find their that overriding reason. I found my overriding reason. I did not want to be laying on the floor in pain,
that's a good
through
one.
my 50s and the rest of my life. For me, it was easy, but everybody has that reason. They just, or if they uncovered it enough, they would find it.
Okay.
And that would lead to, and I think the easiest way then to go forward is through walking because it's such a gentle way to be fit. Since I've been walking, since all these years, since 2016, I've been hurt once and I did a stupid thing. I was walking on the street after a storm and I stepped through a pile of leaves and I turned my ankle. So it wasn't actually the walking that did it. It was my stupidity of stepping into a place where I didn't see
Well,
what
good thing you weren't
it
running.
was. Wow, forget it. Probably would have broke my ankle. But so I'll give you an interesting running walking story. So, dating my girlfriend now, volunteers at her local Lions Club. They put on a race at the end of the summer, Labor Day. And 2 years ago, she said, "Hey, well, I'm volunteer at this race. Why don't you come? You could walk it." And I'm like, "Hey, great." So I get to the start line. I was going to walk it, and all these little kids are running. So I'm like, "Well, let me jog a little bit." It was a 5K, so I probably jogged for half of it. I couldn't stand the running part, that half jogging, and I walked the other half. I was sore for my legs were sore for 4 days after that. So I
From
did half of
walking,
5K from the running part of it because I ran half that race. So what did I run? 2.5 kilometers or whatever that works out to be. Right? It's a mile and a half.
when I was a kid, literally like 10, and I think my younger brother was 9 or 8, I decided to sign up for a marathon. This is long before, so many people do marathons. And we did what you're talking about. We jogged a little, but we pretty much walked the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
They were taking down the tables, the last of, yeah, as we came through. And they didn't even care that we came through. We're here, like totally shut down. But we walked it.
But you walked that's really cool. You walked a marathon. So
Mm-hmm.
all during my running time, I tried to work my way up to run a marathon. And every time I increased my miles, once I got over like a 10, 12-mile run on a training run, I got hurt. I was sore. I was hurt. It never failed that I broke down.
I like your logic that the way you described it. Running technically maybe burns more calories and sounds cooler, but you break down and then what's the point? Because then you're going to get fat again as you sit on the couch trying to heal.
Exact. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. So by walking, I was just more consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, about 4 years ago, I did walk a marathon distance. So I'd always said, wait, I always broke down when I tried to run a marathon. So it was the summertime, school teacher, went to a local park it's a bike path that is 12 and a half miles loop. Really nice. And said, all right, I'm going to do 2 loops. That's 25 miles and then a little bit extra. And I wanted to get to the marathon distance, 26.2, and then go even further. So I actually wound up walking 30 miles that day.
Wow.
It was a long day. Had the headphones in, enjoyed every second of it. Stopped halfway for a cup of coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. Found a Starbucks. I went out of the park to Starbucks, came back, finished the walk. The next day I was tired, but I was not anywhere near sore had I tried to run 30 miles. So I did a marathon distance plus, and it was such a great experience.
Back to
You don't need to walk that much though to get in shape.
well, it's a cool idea. It's actually walk in more marathons. Maybe I could do that more.
Yeah.
But back to the people who just can't get to open the door, put their shoes on, and walk out. What's stopping them, and what do you do in your program to help them along, encourage them?
Well, the encouragement is it's this, and one they've got to find that overriding reason. They've got to find their why. That's what I call it, right? And then do things that support that. So one and major one is, I believe, a lot in the mindset of visualizing. You got to visualize themselves not as they are right now, if they're overweight or out of shape, whatever they are, where are they going to be 6 months from now, a year from now? And just visualize that. Because if you could see yourself more fit and feeling good about yourself and happier, you could work, that gives you that reason to get out the door. So visualize. The next thing, have some kind of goal, whether it's to lose weight or to hit a distance goal, anything that just gives you a little bit of a push to get out the door and start exercising. And in my case, start walking, which I suggest they do. And then building little habits along the way. One of the biggest habits I tell people is just set your clothes out. I call it getting a win. We all need to win every day. So instead of, let's say, these people beating up on themselves for not exercising. Well, hey, I put my clothes out today. I did one thing that gets me closer to getting out the door.
Does not having the right shoes, or do people worry, oh, I don't have the right shoes, or I don't have a water bottle, or I don't have a Gore-Tex? Are any of those excuses?
You could walk in anything. It's something comfortable for your shoes. I think you're on your feet all the time. I recommend shoes. And if you start walking, I really recommend a good pair of specific walking shoes or walking sneakers. They call them walking shoes. Mm-hmm. When I was researching for my book, I had been using my running shoes, which are always lightweight. They feel lightweight. And then I went and got a pair of walking shoes, and they felt like a pair of slippers. They were so
I didn't know there was a difference.
I didn't think it was going to be a big difference. It felt amazing. So I put the walking shoes on. I walked on them. I used them for a week. I'm like, let me put my running shoes back on, my running sneakers, New Balance. And I bought New Balance walking shoes. And I felt like, I remember the old character, the Herman Munster character from the Munsters, right? With those big shoes he had. That's what it felt like I was walking in when I went back to the running shoes. Because the walking sneakers were so light, and because they don't take the pounding. When we run, if we run at a high enough rate, we're actually bounding. We're actually in the air for part of the time, and so your body, that's why your body takes such a beating. So do the sneakers. So the walking shoe can be lightweight. It doesn't have to stand up to as much stress as the running sneaker, because the walking motion is so gentle.
And what about
the sneakers? It's easier on your body.
What about stretching and warm up, which I never do going for a walk? I just grab my coffee and I start walking.
I do. I have a program with Stretching for Health and Fitness. Basically, I don't stretch before. You shouldn't stretch cold muscles. A little bit of warm up. Little squats. Ankle circles. Just roll your ankles a little bit, left and right. There's a few little things you could do to warm your body up.
You're making me feel good now or validating, because when I get up, I used to just go, I'm like, don't even make coffee, go for the walk, because else you're going to get stuck and not do it. Now I'm kind of like, it seems to me, like you say, just going cold turkey, I just got out of bed, my muscles are tight. I should walk around the house a little bit, have my coffee, and then I go for my walk.
Exactly. It's your body the muscles need to warm up a little bit and not stretch, just get moved, just the movement to warm them up.
I go up and down the stairs, just going up, I get up out of the bed, go up and down the stairs, get my clothes.
That's the warm up. And then you stretch afterwards if you feel tight. That's all I've been doing for since 2016. And
I come home and do my big stretches and sit-ups then for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of body weight exercises. You combine those with push-ups and walking. Oh my God. You've got everything covered. And a few squats in between, and
So what's your program? Do you have any clients that stand out, like ones that we're speaking of who before just like, I can't do it, and now they're like, this is great, Steve, why didn't I start?
Yeah, so this guy by the name of Robert Boggs, he's out in California. I think he just turned 84 years old. He's been doing my program I have a program called Fitness Walking Bodyweight Exercises. And it's set to a soundtrack. It's 32 minutes long, and every 4 minutes you do a different bodyweight exercise, and repeat them. So there's squats, lunges, push-ups, and planks, just holding a plank. So you get out and walk, stop someplace. When I guide you through it, right, there's my voice. It's, okay, get ready. And
so are you walking as you listen? You're
walking as you're listening. And then every 4 minutes, it's okay, do a minute of body weight exercises.
So are you carrying
and you work your way up to if you can't do a minute, because a minute of push-ups is a lot of push-ups, so Robert's been doing this exercise faithfully for the last few years. And I got an email from him that, people can't believe how old he is doing it. And he's modified some of the exercises as he's gotten older, but he is an absolute success story. And he has a quote, your body is the machine. The body is the fitness machine, I think it is. And that's all you need. Just body weight exercises and so.
By body weight exercises, I imagined he was carrying some like 5 pound weight, but it's totally just
No,
body, like
just
body.
just your body. That's it. Push-ups, really, push-ups are a whole body exercise. I mean, it's that up and down motion, great for the upper body, but you have to keep the rest of your body tight in order to maintain.
Well, I quit doing push-ups when I hurt my shoulder, and
Okay.
yeah, no matter how much it's not worth hurting. It's
Yeah. Well, you modify. You could be up a little bit. I don't know.
On the knees.
So many different ways too.
This is true, Steve. I forget. People told me you can be on your knees and do the push. I forget that.
There's the modified. There's always ways to modify the exercises. So, but you ask for a success story, boy. That's someone who in his 80s and is in phenomenal shape, and it looks forward to doing the workouts.
It's nice about that is so many people around 80, 85, come to think of it, they're dead. That I've known, versus those ones who, God, they could live to be 100 and they're going to die in their sleep at 100 in perfect health. And he's probably going to be one of those now.
Probably, yeah. Well, it's funny. So growing up, my mother's would be my mother's brother-in-law, my aunt's husband, Mr. Ostuni. He walked everywhere. Now this is back. He's a kid in the 70s. We never saw anybody walking any place, or even like running was such a novel idea really back then.
But there were no running shoes. There wasn't like rebalance or there were no running shoes practically. Maybe one.
No, I think Nike came about in the mid 70s or so. I ran cross country in what year? 79, 78.
And the people these days, they have to have everything, the best shoes and the water bottle and the Gore-Tex and this and that and little everything. I'm like, we used to we didn't have shoes. I mean, whatever shoes you're wearing. Yeah.
That was it. So he walked everywhere. Excuse me. And he lived to be, I think he was 96 or 97. I don't ever remember him being heavy. He was always very thin, but strong. He liked the box. He had a speed bag in his basement and walked everywhere. He owned a building. He's a landlord. So he walked 5 miles each way, 3 times a week. He'd go down to the building, clean up around it, see if the tenants needed anything, and walk back home. Now I'm a kid as I got my license in 1980, and I'd see him. I'm like, oh, Mr. I still need a ride? Nope. And he always said, got to get my walk in. Walked everywhere, perfect health into his late 90s. So nice. That's my inspiration.
So tell me some common mistakes people make when they start walking that they do get hurt. Maybe it's because they're trying to do something with fitness that they should slow down and just walk before they start doing the body lifting or whatever. What's like a common, like, don't do this if it's your first day walking out the door?
Well, okay. If you're just starting, someone who's just says, you know what, I'm listening to Frank and let me get started here. One, walk at a pace that's comfortable. You don't need to walk fast, just as comfortable. Number one. Number two, don't overdo it. Because even something, if you're not used to walking and you try to go too far, you're going to feel it the next day. Mm-hmm. I would say just take a short walk, enjoy the scenery, do some breathing as you're walking, and then the next day, and this is the important, it's always the second day that's the tough. It's easy that first day to be all motivated about something.
I would say to which, what do you think about this idea? Because it occurred to me, if I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do Frank's program, or I listen to Dan's podcast and I'm on it, that the first thing I might do is set a goal, like I'm going to walk a mile or half mile, when instead, shouldn't I just walk out the door and see how far I feel comfortable going before I turn around?
Yeah, just get out the door and walk, because you'll start to, when it feels good physically, you're moving, the movement. And then think about the walking motion, right? The arm swing, the leg swing, it's really rhythmic. It's relaxing. I mean, you talk about being in a meditative state in a sense of just, you know, just
But the
enjoy.
other thing that comes to mind is this is from rock mountain climbing. Until I get on the mountain, I don't know what I forgot or could have better, like maybe better footwear. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to get blisters. I need a new pair of shoes. I'm going to try that out. And you don't know that stuff until you actually get out the door and start walking.
Yeah. You have to get out and do it. And then really just enjoy the process, enjoy the walk, you know, and then go a little bit, set a goal, go a little bit further.
So speaking of which, I personally don't like any electronics. I don't listen to music. I want to hear the birds or talk to my neighbor. But that being said, what is your opinion and advice about, because it sounds like you are big on metrics, like when you do get down into it and you've been walking a little bit, then having a goal, walk a mile. What do you recommend in terms of fitness trackers and apps and such like that?
If they motivate you, use them. If they distract you, don't use them. Getting back when I was running, I was always looking at the watch. Like, okay, if I had the same training rate, well, I know last time I got down to that point in 25 minutes. That always was like, because you're always running a race. Once I started walking, I really just keep track of the walking miles, going back to the virtual walk around. Well,
That's a
started
cool
slow,
one.
but
That's a
it
cool.
actually,
Yeah.
I actually made it around the United States. And here's the crazy thing. You know when it ended? It ended during COVID. So my goal, let me get,
Just when everyone else is just getting outside at that point.
yeah. So so I'm doing this virtual run for years. It took me like 16 years to do it, right? But I was really in a flow. But once I started walking, and I wasn't hurt anymore. So I'm a school teacher. This is why I started this whole thing, to goof on my kids. And I had a student, name was Dominic, and that September, he's a senior. He comes in my room, he looks at the maps I have up on the wall, the pictures, and he says, "Are you going to finish this by the time I graduate in June?" This is this is 2019 into 2020. And I'm like, let me look at how many more miles I need, and maybe I could work this out. And it turned out that if I'd averaged 100 miles a month, I could, I needed about 1,000 miles. I could finish in June. Now, like I said, Route 1 runs from the George Washington Bridge through Palisades Park. I was going to actually then walk from the George Washington Bridge to the high school.
I'm trying to do the math. That's about 3 miles a day.
About 3 miles. Yeah, about 3 miles a day. So so my goal was,
And
I have a whole bunch of people to finish this walk with me. Any students who wanted to do it, I thought that would be a cool idea. So what happens in March? COVID hits, everything is shut down. We're no longer in school. When I want to go out on my walks, I always track how many miles I did. But I got so discouraged during that point in time, I didn't even put it onto my maps. I didn't know where I was in this walk. And sure enough, had that not happened, I would have finished around the time they graduated, and I could have done something, hey, I'm finishing up this walk. I could have done something with it as far as getting students involved.
That brings a question to my mind is I always go outside. I never even thought about walking inside or walking at the gym or walking at the mall, or maybe for those people that don't feel comfortable walking outside, that are in a good neighborhood. I don't think walking in your house would do it, because it's like, how far? Do you have any suggestions for walking inside?
Yes, you could do mall walking. There are some malls that encourage people to come and walk. Some malls have walking clubs. On my website, Walking for Health and Fitness, I actually have a blog post about mall walking. So it's cold here in North Jersey. It's I think it was about 11 this morning, so it's pretty cold. Go to a local mall, and there's one, you're inside.
And stay away from the food court. Don't go.
Stay away from the food courts.
I would want to go get coffee and Cinnabons, like cinnamon, sugar things.
Just have the coffee, or if you do a lot of walking, then you have the Cinnabon. But it's inside. It's a controlled atmosphere. It's safe. You're in a safe environment, and it's interesting. There's a lot of walking you can do in a mall. So that's an absolutely great idea for someone who's in a cold climate or a really hot climate, down south. If it's in summertime, go to a nice cold conditioned mall.
And would a place like meetup.com or those sites where you can meet people, is that helpful?
I've never used those. I have a friend of mine who's a hiker, and he's used them to meet up with people. I would imagine there's something on wall walking on Meetup. That would be a cool idea.
Just for those people, like I'm one who I like to walk and meet people and say hello or just hi as I go by. Then I know there are people, again, it's not my mindset, Steve, but some who they feel uncomfortable doing anything by themselves.
Yeah, I think that could be a drawback too to people walking because like I don't think anything twice of getting outside, but there are people I've seen. Well, the other thing, it's a great social activity to do. Grab a friend, grab a relative, go out and walk together. You know, my girlfriend and I have some of our best conversations of when we've been out on our walks, or we like to hike also. So we'll be out in the woods and just, you know, you're in that
All you have to do is wave.
mindset.
You wave. And there'll be people, neighbors who know you and you don't know them, or you can't tell because they're dressed for the warm, down a jacket. You just wave and they go, "Hey, Daniel." They're like, who are you? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So okay, I have a funny COVID story along those lines. So I walk through the same neighborhood every day. And so now COVID hits and I start to see more people that had never seen walking before. So there was this guy walking. He always had the headphones in, as did I, and head down, and big guy, he needed to walk. And I'd wave to him and he didn't know, he would never, like the first few times he wouldn't, I think he purposely didn't look at me because he didn't want to wave back to me. It was really odd, but every day I kept waving. And finally I got the little bit he like kind of put his hand up a little bit. Like, I didn't know he was uncomfortable waving to me. I don't know. It was really, so eventually every day the wave got a little bit bigger. And about a week after his first wave, we were about a block apart and he had the hand up and he's giving me the big wave. So we stopped and we talked, we introduced ourselves to each other. But the first few times he did not lift his head up to look at me at all. So there's also some people, I guess, feel self-conscious about that or don't.
Well, actually,
you go on vacation. I mean, anytime you go to a vacation spot, everybody's your best friend. Waving, how you doing? Hello. But in your own neighborhood, people are more closed off.
well, one thing I noticed, because I try to take things personally, and some people just maybe aren't friendly. The fact is, I think some people you can't see their earbuds and they're listening to loud music and they can't hear you.
That could be.
And they're not paying attention is the disappointing thing. I mean, they're getting out walking, so it's great, but they're kind of, I think, I like to listen to the birds and the wind and,
You do that, yeah.
And they're in they're, I don't know if they're getting the right mindset is what I'm saying, but at least they're getting out walking. But you take it personally, like, hey, and they don't even look at you and they're like, oh, they're wearing earbuds, listening to music. They don't even know I'm here. Yeah. So don't take it personally if people don't wave back to you is what I'm saying.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So overall, I mean, everything I've done since I started walking, as far as me personally, anytime I'm very rarely in a bad mood, but if I am, a good walk kind of just zaps that out of me. And any problem, just, either I find a solution or I find a place to put it that is it no longer.
So that reminds me of a lot of personal or family or whatever dramas, even work, when you get really heated, like, I'm going for a walk.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later.
Interesting. I love rock music, and I love to hear the almost more so than the music, the musician stories. So there's a guy who interviews a lot of famous musicians, and he was interviewing Sting, the lead singer of the Police, and his own stuff. And he asked, Sting had his guitar player with him, and he said to the guitar player, "So, how do you guys write a song? And what comes up?" So Sting says, "Well, Dominic, he'll come up with a nice line on the guitar, and he said, we'll have the structure together." He says, "And then I take it and I put it on my device and I go out for a walk." He says, "And I find the lyrics under a rock." But basically, it's that walk that opens up the creative flow for him. He's got the music set, he's got the structure of what he wants the song, and now it's like, all right, what's this song about? And he said, "I go out for a walk."
Nice.
I've done that all the time. Yeah. So if it works for a million-selling recording artist, it could work for us.
There you go. Or you might get an idea for an invention or just an idea for how to solve a problem that's going on in your life or what to say to your partner or spouse when you come back. That's nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really, the mindset part of it is so, it's so beneficial. And that's why I preach the walking.
Mm. So, is there anything we haven't talked about, Steve, that you wanna add?
We covered a lot. I mean, I have right now 4 books about walking. They're on Amazon. Just they could search my name, Frank Ring. My name should ring a bell, right? We'll throw that line in there. And Walking for Health and Fitness was my first book, and I started writing books. I just enjoyed the process of doing it, and I have another.
Did you get ideas going for a walk? Like I should write a chapter.
Yeah, so the second book I wrote was about walking and body weight exercises. I said, well, I've started, I started doing the push-ups and the squats to just get a different workout in, and I'm like, well, let me write about this. And then I had a book about quotes, walking quotes and fitness quotes.
Oh, give
And
me a
then
quote. What's a
walking on the spot. It is wait who's the guy, the medical guy, Hippocrates. Walking is it just
Make one up.
escaped. I'll just make walk. Here's my quote: walking for health and fitness, the easiest way to get in shape and stay in shape. But Hippocrates, walking is man's best medicine, which is really which helped me. That's what walking has kept me healthy.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be doing this. Your back wouldn't be the same without what you did.
No. Yeah. So the back is healthy. I can get out there anytime. Bike. I play golf, do a lot of hiking. No, rock. You do rock climbing? I don't do anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything. I was one of the first snowboarders in 1990.
Okay.
Skied, snowboard, mountain climbed, mountain bike. I had a mountain bike really early on, but
Okay.
all of these things, I've kind of given up as running's hard on my body
Mm-hmm.
and snowboarding's hard on your head and your hip. And I broke my hip rock climbing. But the one thing, come to think of it, Steve, that I've never given up is walking. I can always, I'm not doing this to plug what you're doing. The truth is, I've never given up walking, even with the broken hip on my walker, come to think of it. You have to do something. I mean, you have to do something. Otherwise, you're going to not die, but just get rigid.
Well, that's it. I mean, think about, we have to walk, even if you don't walk for exercise, you have to get to the supermarket to buy food. And these supermarkets are huge. I mean, the ones in this area are enormous. It's a great workout just going to the supermarket. You have to be able to get out of your car if you're a driver and do anything, whether it's going to the mall to go shopping, whether it's going to the supermarket to go shopping. You got to get up and just walk down the hall to go to the bathroom. I mean,
The difference, I think, is when you're doing all those things, your mindset is not in the mindset we're talking about, the staying mindset. It's you're already focused on where you're going versus doing the casual walk, or what's the word for your walk program, like the mindset walk.
More mindset, yeah.
Where I don't have my purpose for this walk is not something I have to do. It's something I'm choosing to do for myself, for my goal, or just because it's good for my brain, right?
Yeah, that's why I walk. But just in general, for someone who doesn't use walking as a way to stay fit, they do have to walk to live their life.
Mm-hmm.
And once we lose our mobility, if someone confined to a wheelchair, boy, the life expectancy really drops because they lose so much bone mass and muscle mass and muscle tone. We need to be upright. We need to be moving. And
I have a lot of respect for. There are a few people in wheelchairs that are really respectful and they don't let it stop them. Yeah, that would be tough though. I'm glad I'm not one of them. I don't know if I'd have the mindset for that myself.
Yeah. Well, of course, right. There are the wheelchair racers and people athletically, but in general, as people age and then are confined to a wheelchair because they let their body break down, that the life expectancy really drops. So it's so important just for quality of life, just like I said, just to be able to, I need to go to the supermarket to pick up a gallon of milk. That alone.
Have you ever heard that theory? There's even machines like exercise machines that they sell, but they're high end, and you only find them at the most expensive functional medicine clinic that has toys. There is something that the idea that compression is good for you, not like running compression, but slow compression for your bones.
What do you mean by compression? I don't.
Yeah, that's what
the idea that like a sleeve fills up with air to compress the legs. I've seen
it's
with
your bones. Kind of like drink your milk. Calcium is good for you. This theory is that not impactful like running, not that, but just walking. The compression like is good for your bones. Like you were saying, if you're in a wheelchair or you're just in bed or whatever, if you're not using it, like use it or lose it.
Well, I had a friend, a guy I worked with, my friend Don, who had terrible knee injury. And in his recovery, he had a device that just moved his leg back and forth just to start to get this. He would, every week or so, he would adjust it so the range of motion was a little bit more. But that machine, he said, just constantly moved his leg, I guess, to keep or to develop more mobility.
Like robotics or AI or something like that?
Yeah, it was less that, more of a machine that just moved his leg back and forth so that the knee flexed at a certain angle.
The range of motion. Yeah.
That's it. That's how it was.
Nice.
So, yeah, but again, it's movement. He needed to use it or lose it.
So what's next for you? Any big, like another book on the brain or a walk or something?
Next for me is a book called Walking Works because it does. And basically, I do a podcast. I haven't done an episode in quite a while, but I took all of the topics of the podcast episodes, there are 20 of them, and I put it into a book form. So I kind of condensed the podcast into a book. So I'm looking to release that in the springtime, early spring, whatever the first day of spring is. I think that
21st.
Release it the 21st.
It's always March 21st.
March 21st. So that's the day that I plan to release that book.
I like the title.
Give me something to work on. Yeah, Walking Works.
You're going to live and walk to be over 100.
That is my goal, to reach 100. Daniel, thank you so much.
Details will be in the show notes for your books and program, and website is Walking for, spelled out FOR, Walking for Health and Fitness.com, and it'll be in the show notes. Thanks, Frank. Thanks so much for being on my show.
Daniel, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you. It was a nice conversation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good work you're doing, and I hope it helps a lot of people. I'm sure it will help a lot of people who listen.
Yes, so far I've gotten a nice feedback on the book. I've gotten some nice reviews, and just people have reached out to me on my email list. So
walking works. How can you go wrong with that?
Exactly. So again, thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
All right, take care.